May, eminent professor of technology management in the School of Management, University Sains, Malaysia. Professor Yogesh Dwivedi, a distinguished professor of digital marketing and innovation and co-director research of management, Swansea University, United Kingdom. Dr. Aviral Kumar Tiwari, a noted expert in economics, managerial economics, and basic economics courses. Dr. Aviral is an associated professor at Rajagiri Business School.
I, Shaurya Pahuja, would like to introduce the session moderator, Professor Varsha Jain. Professor Varsha Jain is an esteemed professor in integrated marketing communications and the co chairperson of the Fellow Program in Management at Mudra Institute of Communications, Ahmedabad. We are extremely honored to host such a distinguished group of speakers with us here today. I now request Dr. Shikha Gupta, Department of Commerce, to give a formal introduction to Professor Ramaya Tharasme and Professor Yogesh Dwivedi.
Thank you, Shaurya. I welcome our esteemed panelists for the session today, Professor T. Ramaya, Professor Yogesh Dwivedi, Dr. Aviral Kumar Tiwari, and Professor Varsha Jain as the session's moderator. I also welcome our distinguished audience in the conference from various universities and colleges across the globe. My dear colleagues and students, a very good afternoon to everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to formally introduce the first speaker of the panel discussion, Professor T. Ramaya. Professor T. Ramaya is currently a professor of technology management, School of Management, University Sains, Malaysia, visiting Professor Minjiang University, China, Faculty of Economics and Business, University Malaysia, Sarawak, and adjunct professor at Sunway University and University Tenaga National, Malaysia. He is also an international collaborative partner at University Tunku Abdul Rahman, Malaysia. He has taught courses in statistics, operations management, research methods, forecasting, and computer literacy at undergraduate level. He has supervised numerous PhD, MA, MBA students in the fields of information systems, operations management, marketing management, and organizational behavior. He is also currently supervising numerous students at the master's and the doctorate levels. He is trained structural equation modeling analysis instructor. He has conducted structural equation modeling workshops in Malaysia, Australia, China, Pakistan, Indonesia, Thailand, and of course, India. He has also presented numerous papers at local and international conferences, having won 5 Best Paper Awards, the most recent one being 2006 Distinguished Asian Scholar Award conferred at the Academy for Global Business Advancement. He has also been awarded as a highly commended award winner at the Literary Network Awards for Excellence in 2008. He is constantly invited to serve on the editorial boards and program committees of many international journals and conferences of repute. In addition, T. Ramaya has collaborated with noted companies from various disciplines of business through multiple consultancy projects. To date, his consulting experience includes research conducted for companies such as Tesco, World Fish Center, Mimos, to name a few. Next to consultancy projects, T. Ramaya is also actively involved in various research grants, ranging from short-term grants, research university grants, up to externally funded international competitive grants like the POSCO grant from Korea and Sumitomo grant from Japan. Thank you so much, sir, for your esteemed presence today for this session. I also take this opportunity to formally welcome the second panelist of the session, Professor Yogesh K. Dwivedi, as a professor who is a professor in the School of Management at Swansea University, United Kingdom. Professor Dwivedi completed his PhD and MSc in Information Systems at Brunel University, London, UK, and MSc in Plant Genetic Resources at the Indian Agricultural Research Institute, India, and his BSc with Botany, Zoology, and Chemistry at the University of Allahabad, Prayagraj, India. His research interests are in the area of information systems and electronic business, including the adoption and diffusion of emerging and interest in analysis of usage trends of information system theories and understanding the evolution of information systems, e-government, and e-commerce research. His work has been published in leading journals. He has presented his research at key international conferences in Asia, Australia, Europe, and North America. He has held numerous editorial positions over his illustrious career. He has edited, co-edited more than 10 books on technology adoption, e-government, IS theory, and had them published by international publishers such as Springer, Routledge, and Emerald. He acted as a co-editor of 14 special issues in international journals, organized tracks, mini tracks, and panels in leading conferences. And he has served as a program co-chair of IFIP WG 8.6 conference at the prestigious IM Bangalore in 2013. Professor Yogesh has acted as a director of PGR students and has examined many doctoral theses from universities in Australia, India, and United Kingdom. He is involved in the supervision of several PhD candidates undertaking research on e-government, e-commerce, ISIT adoption, and diffusion. Professor Dwivedi was selected as one of the 5 finalists for the 2017 Outstanding Research Supervisor of the Year Award as part of the prestigious annual Times Higher Education Awards. This nomination was a tremendous achievement and deservedly apt given to Professor Dwivedi's commitment to support scholars at all stages of their careers. Sir, we are extremely delighted to have with us today for this session. Thank you so much, sir. Over to Shaurya.
Thank you so much, ma'am. May I now request Dr. Sonika Sharma, Department of Commerce, to formally introduce Dr. Aviral Kumar Tiwari and Professor Varsha Jain.
Thank you, Shaurya. A very good afternoon to everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our esteemed panelist, Dr. Aviral Kumar Tiwari. Dr. Tiwari is Associate Professor at Rajagiri Business School, India. Prior to joining RBS, he served as Associate Professor at Montpellier Business School, France, and as an Assistant Professor at IBS Hyderabad, India. After graduating with a degree in economics from Lucknow University, India, he received his MPhil in Labor Economics and PhD in Energy and Environment from ICFI University, Tripura. His research interests focus on various issues concerning energy, environment, tourism, macroeconomy, and growth and development. He has published in various journals of international repute, including top-ranked journals in the prestigious Financial Times 50 list. His previous researches have featured in journals such as Journal of Business Ethics, Tourism Management, Annals of Tourism Research, Economics Letters, Energy Economics, International Review of Financial Analysis, Economic Modeling, and many others. He has been conferred the Best Researcher Award 2015 by GRABS Educational Charitable Trust, Chennai, and a prestigious Professor M.J. Manohar Rao Award for 2014 from Indian Econometric Society for his outstanding research contributions. He is a noted expert in economics, managerial economics, and basic econometric courses. He has also served as associate editor of various eminent journals. Dr. Aviral's research prowess is demonstrated by production of multiple highly cited papers that rank in top 1% by citations on the Web of Science. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation. We're indeed honored to have you with us. I am going to introduce our moderator, Professor Varsha Jain. I'm delighted to introduce Professor Varsha Jain. Professor Varsha is a professor in Integrated Marketing Communications and the co-chairperson FPM at MICA India. Professor Jain has over 17 plus years of experience in teaching and research. She has authored over 100 plus publications in international, national, and trade journals, book chapters, and case study collections. The publications, including the A star and A in the ABDC list, such as European Journal of Marketing, Journal of Business Research, Journal of Product and Brand Management, Journal of Consumer Marketing, and so on. Professor Jain is recipient of more than 20 national and international awards and gold medals in research. Recent awards include Best Researcher of the Year 2019 by Center for Education, Growth and Research, initiated by Government of India. In her research career, she was visiting guest at Emory Business School, Atlanta, USA, and visiting scholar and guest at the Medill School, Northwestern University, USA. She did a keynote speech and panel discussion at Fudan University, Shanghai in August 2019 on global digital natives, behavior in digital age. She was also visiting professor to leading schools in India, such as Indian Institute of Management, Raipur, IIM Trichy, and IIM Bangalore, Indore. Her research specialties lie in digital marketing, luxury branding, and digital native. Her current work entails writing books on consumer behavior, a digital native, customer relationship management in the digital age, how to develop conceptual framework in digital context, and qualitative marketing research in digital age. Thank you, ma'am, for accepting our invitation. We are honored to have you with us. Thank you. Over to Shaurya now.
Thank you so much, ma'am. May I now request the session moderator, Professor Varsha Jain, to take over the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be with you all. I would like to thank, Aarti, Sonika, Shaurya, Karan, Shikha, everybody over here. I hope I'm not missing out anybody. So thank you so much for inviting us. It's really pleasure to be with you all. And I would also like to invite all my co-panelists. Welcome to the session. And the sequence is basically what we're going to do is we'll try to make it as interactive as possible. And we will also request the audience that if you have the questions, queries, I'm sure during the discussion, you will emerge with a lot of thought processes. So maybe you can put it up in the chat and we can take it up from there and explain that depending upon the areas that you have chosen. So essentially, given the theme of the panel, and we've been discussing about it since a long time, that a bilingual, kind of a situation which is there, and how does that affect as a challenge for the research. So honestly, after having a lot of discussion among ourselves, we realize that, in a country like India, I would say we are not bilingual. Maybe we use more languages now, and we also use technologically oriented languages like emotives and all, which will become part of our language very soon in terms of our expressions and, the thought processes that we are going to exchange with each other. So given that particular context, what we also felt that the entire audience over here, we really appreciate your presence. We thought that to make it more effective and fruitful, let's open it up beyond the language and discuss the entire journey of publication, so to say. I have esteemed panel members with me who has a very high experience in terms of research and publication. So I think they would, of course, discuss about how bilingual becomes the challenge, but they will also discuss that how publication journey is important and what are the challenges, what are the key areas besides the language, which has to be, considered by the researchers and the scholars and the faculty while they are aiming for top-rated publication internationally. So with that thought, what I would do is I would request our first, panel member, Professor Yogesh Dwivedi, to express and share his own journey and views. I'm sure with his experience and expertise, we will be able to understand how this context of bilingual works, as well as we will also understand that how this entire journey of publication and research works. So after his thought process, the sequence would be that we would request the audience to keep putting their questions. So probably that would help us to align the thoughts. So maybe 15 minutes for each speaker. And then at the end, I will provide the concluding remarks and we'll follow the Q&A. So we'll start with Professor Yogesh, then Professor Ramaya, Professor Tiwari, and then we will open it up for the questions after my concluding remarks. So Professor Yogesh Dwivedi.
Thank you very much, Varsha, for introduction, and thank you, Aarti, for inviting us to be part of this event. You can hear me, right? Everyone can hear me properly? Okay. I'm not going to talk anything very formally here. I would rather give my experience. As Varsha said, our research journey, we would like to share. And through that, we will articulate or try to articulate that if there are challenges such as bilingual in nature, or it's a challenge, research challenge itself, So we'll see. I think I will take about 8 to 10 minutes or maximum 10 minutes, and then other panelists will share their thoughts. Before I say anything about research, let me just tell you my background, where I come from, so that you can see that if any of you might be facing that, then I would definitely have faced that. So I'm from a small district in UP, Pratapgarh, which is Awadh region. So my childhood all gone in speaking Awadhi, if you know. And if anyone don't know Awadhi, if you know Ramcharitmanas, then you can know that it's written in Awadhi. So all my childhood gone in speaking, in fact, until 12th, speaking Awadhi, and all my education has been in Hindi medium. English was subject. Obviously, I did my high school and intermediate from UP board. So English was there as a subject, but medium was Hindi in terms of education. And I had least interest in English subject and mathematics. Both I never gave proper attention. My interest was in biology, science. So these two subjects I used to study properly. So, and then after intermediate in Pratapgarh, I moved to Allahabad University, as mentioned earlier, and I did my degree from there in biology. Again, first year, I did my exam in Hindi medium. So I was taught in English medium. So I used to translate everything in Hindi medium. And then, in Hindi. And then I gave my exam in Hindi. So I managed to pass in first year. And then second year and third year, I managed to then switch to English medium exam and performed better. And then moved to, obviously, Indian Agricultural Research Institute, Delhi. And there, obviously, medium was completely in English. So although I used to struggle in terms of speaking, but I managed to write everything in English and give my exam and perform well. I'm not sure if many people knows that institute. That institute takes only 2 or 3 students per year in per subject group. And it's based on all India, competitive examination. So you can imagine the level of competition. But I managed to, kind of get 4 out of 4 OGPA in my master's in IRI, Pusa, New Delhi. So that kind of gave me, that was kind of transition towards English medium, I would say. And then obviously after master's, I moved to Brunel University in London, where I changed my subject. So from biology, I switched to information systems, and I did a master's there and then continued with PhD. So for me, bilingual thing here is 2 things. One thing is actual linguistic thing from Hindi to English, but also subject also has its own language. So from biology, if you're reading biology, is very different when you come and start studying social sciences, be it marketing, be it information system, or be it any other social science discipline. So double challenges, I would say. When I moved to information system, it was double challenge. But then when I started my journey as a PhD student, I used to, obviously, at early stage, I used to get worried. What's going to happen, how I'm going to write papers. When I used to read papers, then I used to see when I'm going to able to develop such paper by my own. However, then I realized that before I even think about developing paper and writing paper, I really need to, know what already there, what other has done, how they have written, how they have crafted, how they have structured their paper. And I think that is the most important thing. So if, in India, I wouldn't say most of you, I think, would have either studied in English medium or you would have had a subject as English, for sure. As a scholar, or as a student in masters and bachelors, in India, it's not a big challenge, I would say, language per se, because we study little bit of English even if we are in state schools. So, that is not actual challenge. It's more about knowing the research process, and what is expected is important thing. And as I think Varsha said that, it's important to tell you that, or actually share our experience, that it's not about actually language, it's about you giving proper attention to the research aspect. So why I have said 3 times this, why I'm saying this, let me just share my experience of receiving the papers from Indian scholars. So I'm editor of one of a journal, one of international journal, as well as I'm associate editor of number of other journals. And they are good journals. And often I receive paper from Indian audience where paper is nowhere near to standard. Means the kind of structuring expected, kind of argumentation expected, kind of rigor in method, in terms of sample size, analysis techniques, all those that are expected, it's not there in those papers. And then simply they get desk rejected. Now, is this actually a problem of language? Probably not. It's not. It's a problem of research. And in my own experience of last 15 to 20 years, I would say, this happens when people start writing paper before even reading sufficient number of paper in their domain. That's one problem, that when you start writing before you are actually ready for writing. Second thing is when one jump from one area to other area just for writing papers. So today you wrote something in marketing area, tomorrow you had some opportunity, or someone enticed you and you started writing in economics or HR or information system. Now you don't have domain knowledge in that area. You would not able to write, you will not able to make a good story out of it. You would not understand the problematization of that area. The language, each area has its own language, and you need to actually understand by reading several papers, you will understand what language they use, be it theorization, be it methodology, be it discussion. Different area uses different language in these aspects. And unless you actually, read enough good papers, you would not able to know. And then even different journals has their own language, their preferred style. So not only area, but even journalistic style you have to understand in order to break through the editorial gateway and get your paper published. So, these two things, I would say, is the most important thing that you should, keep in mind, that you really need to understand the domain, first thing, and you also need to understand your, your target journals that you want to publish to. And then you will be fine. I think your language will not at all cause problem. However, another point I would say, So one thing is a reading. So read enough and then start conceptualizing your thoughts about your idea and your paper. And then don't try to write a star paper in first go. Not even A class paper, not even B. I would say if it's your first go, give a go for conference, a good conference. Try to write a good paper and submit it to good conference where you probably get oral feedback as well as reviewer feedback. And you will get the idea where you are actually, where you stand. And then try to develop that work further, or related work you can develop. That can go somewhere else. But what happens, the gradual thing is always good. When you develop one paper, you learn something, then second paper, you learn something, then third paper. By fourth and fifth, you will have confidence that yes, you are doing right thing in the right way. Yeah, and that then actually help you to learn even more easily learn the style preferred by different journals and conferences. I might be very obvious what I'm saying, but these are the mistakes people do, that they have never written a let's write to a star journal in first go, which is not going to happen. Seasoned scholars, those who have published and published and published, even when they submit papers in a star journals, they get rejected not once, few times before they succeed. Yeah. So it's very important that, be ambitious, but be realistic as well. What your work quality is and what your ambitions are. There shouldn't be gap. And if there are gap, then of course there is a problem. So you can see that I'm not talking about language here. I'm just talking about actual research process and challenges that you may face in that. So, these are the main thing. But again, another thing I will tell that might be applicable to more seasoned scholar, that sometime you start submitting and you keep getting accepted. So that's great, you are getting accepted, but then that means that you are undermining your work. If you are not getting rejected, that means you're not targeting a really good quality journal or a quality that is better than your work. You're not targeting those. So that means if you keep targeting those kind of journal, you will never improve. So that's another end of kind of a spectrum, where one is not prepared and submit to top level journal, and other one is what happens when you have published many, you get comfortable with your situation, and then think it's okay. It's let it go, and you just keep publishing in normal journal where you have published before, and you don't want to break the barrier further. So I think both the side is important. For inexperienced researcher, they need to really look at papers carefully to understand how things are done, how things are written, while the experienced one actually move further, move upward, and see that how, for example, if someone in marketing area, publishing in European Journal of Marketing, which is already very, very strong journal, but then it's not actually marketing science. It's not consumer research. They have very different expectation, very different language. So, for experienced researcher, then to look at what actually those journals expect. What are their requirements? How that is different from where I am going. So those kind of things. So my journey was simple in this way, that I started as a PhD student. I started publishing in conferences. I went to some, like, for example, UK AIS, so I'm in information system area. So I went to first UK AIS conference, which is the IS body in UK. Then I went to some conferences in Australia, America, so American Conference on Information Systems. and, you know, presented in several places. And then I started daring to write, you know, 1-star or 2-star papers. For a few years, I've only written 1-star or 2-star papers. And then after a few years, I think in my third or fourth year, I started writing better paper, a more mature paper. By that time, I had full knowledge of my domain that I was studying, which was technology adoption. So technology adoption is a quite broad and big area. And, you know, knowing various theories, you know, 8, 9, 10 dominant theories, it takes time. So I took 3-4 years to understand the domain properly, so I can do the argument that why I'm selecting this theory, not that theory, why I'm selecting this method, not that method. And because these things actually bite you. These things are the things that reviewer pick up and say, well, you know, I'm not convinced that why you have used that and if that is appropriate. So unless you give the convincing argument, they're not going to listen and you will get critical comments. So through that, then even after finishing my PhD, you know, first 3-4 years, I was going slow and I was targeting one by one, you know, I was targeting good journals in IS area, so top 8 journals. For example, I published in first 3 years in European Journal of Information System Journal, Journal of Information Technology. So slowly, I was building upon my portfolio. But I would say like first 10 years was, you know, I think I published about 100 papers. But then you know, after that, you will know where and what is needed and where you will get trouble from reviewer or editor, and you will try to overcome those things. And things will go then much faster. So 10 years, about 100 paper, but then now only I think 16 years since my first job. And now I have about maybe 400 papers total. So you can see the growth, exponential growth after a certain period. And same thing happened citations. So my first maybe 12 years or 13 years, citations reached to 10,000. In last 2 years, citation gone to now around 25,000 as per Google Scholar. So it's all takes time, but when things are mature, then things get much faster and easier for you to do. And that's all I can say. Go slow, go focused. First 10 years, your aim should be to specialize in a particular area. People should start knowing you from that area, that you are technology adoption researcher, consumer behavior researcher, or an economist in a particular area. So people should know, and that helps because you become master of that area, and you know each and every, if not each and every, but majority of aspects related to that domain. And therefore you can easily argue when a reviewer give you hard time, you can easily argue and give a counter argument to convince reviewer, look, why you have done this in this way. However, if you keep moving and jumping from one place to other, one area to other, you may able to publish few paper, but you would not be a successful scholar. I think I have taken my time, right, Varsha?
Yes.
Yeah?
So,
thank you very much for
yeah.
listening to me. Sorry, I just didn't notice that I've gone beyond my time, but thank you very much. I hear now others. Yes.
Thank you so much, Yogesh. We can understand. We, as researchers, get overwhelmed with the journey and we want to ensure that we cover all the aspects. So we really appreciate that part, that you covered that entire area along with the language, and you narrated very beautifully the bipolar part of the research journey, which is where how you start and what the seasoned scholars have to do. And I agree with you completely, because you will have to go deeper and understand your own area first, be the king and the queen of your area, in other words, and then build upon it and do alignments with the other kingdom who are associated with your area. That's how I will put it up. So I would request if you have any questions specifically for Yogesh, because I think he's got some other commitments after a while. So if you have any questions, queries, any thoughts which you would like to share, discuss with him, he would be happy to answer. We wanted to make it very engaging, because the more curious you are, the better engagement it would be. And curiosity is the first sign of scholars and researchers. So I'm sure all the people over here, which I could see, the 68, all of them are very curious and passionate about research. So any questions, if you have anything in mind, specifically for him? Okay. So we move on then. We go to Professor Ramaya, another distinguished panel member, I'm sure, with his entire research journey and ecosystem. We will learn more about the scholarship and research. So Professor Ramaya, if you could share your journey.
Thank you, Prof. Varsha. Can you see the slides?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Thank you, IECBM, for inviting me. I think some of the things I wanted to discuss was already mentioned by Prof. Yogesh. And by the way, we are in the same area called technology adoption. So it makes things much easier. I used to cite some of his papers in my papers also. So this, what I'm going to do is, we talked about language, and I speak very little English up to after I finished my degree, because in Malaysia, I will share with you that we speak very little English, although we learn English as one of the subjects in our class. But unfortunately, many people don't speak a language well. Okay? So before I move on, this is the website that I've developed since 2000. This is one of the things as research scholars we should be doing to publicize whatever we are doing. And by doing that, you get a lot of opportunities, like good students come to you, you get collaborators coming to you. There are also editors who are looking for reviewers, they are looking for people to guest edit, they will find the webpage. So you can look at the webpage. I hope you are, some of you are not on the top left-hand corner where you have a lot of papers and the papers are not published. And you're also not on the bottom right corner where your deans are coming around shooting you for papers. And this is happening in Malaysia. And now we have a requirement for publication, which is cascaded according to level. A professor will have to have 3 SSCI paper in Q1, Q2. Associate professor has 2 publications in Q1, Q2. And senior lecturer 1 publication in SSCI or SCI in Q1, Q2. So I think now we are living in a much more stressful world compared to many, many years back, where they were not very worried about the level of publication. Okay. So my research journey started many years ago in this country. I'm actually third generation Indian where my great grandfathers actually migrated to Malaysia. They originally came from Tamil Nadu. Okay, but I'm born and bred in Malaysia. So the education system in Malaysia is, you have 6 years of primary school, 5 years of secondary school, and 2 years as high school. All of them are in Malay language. Okay, we speak very little English in classes. Even the English classes are sometimes taught in Malay because the teachers are more familiar with the language. And 4 years of undergraduate, 2 years of masters, and 4 years of a PhD if you want to continue. So up to my first degree, I was still speaking in Malay. But when I wanted to start writing, that is where I found some challenges translating. We were reading books in English and writing in Malay. Suddenly we have to write in English and think in Malay. So that's the challenge we had. I'm actually multilingual because I speak Malay, I speak English, I also speak Tamil, some Tamil, and I also speak Chinese because I'm married to a Chinese wife. And when I was younger, my neighbors were Chinese, so we picked up some Chinese language. And I joined USM in 1990. Okay, 1990. After going for interview 8 times before I got my first job. Okay, that was how I joined academia. So when I first started, I was offered a job as a tutor for 8 years. I was a tutor, and then they wanted to do away with the post called tutor. And they say you have to do your master's before you can get promoted. So that's where I actually went on to do my master's and graduated in 1998. And I went for an interview for promotion. The Deputy Vice Chancellor was asking me, where are your publications? This is 1998, by the way. At that time, there was no requirement for publication, but suddenly this Deputy Vice Chancellor was asking me about publication. So I didn't get promoted in 1998. In 1999, I went for another interview, and this time there was a different Vice Chancellor, and he didn't ask me anything about publication, and I got promoted. Okay, so 1 year it was publication, and another year you don't need anything, you're promoted. No? So that's how I joined as a lecturer in 1999. I wrote my first conference paper in 1999. I wrote my first journal article in year 2000. Okay, when you're younger, you get carried away with your prowess. Right? You think you are very great. And in 2001, what I did was I submitted a paper to International Journal of Information Management. At that time, you have to make 3 hard copies, put in an envelope, send by email to US. And then every other month, you're looking at the mail whether you get some reviews. Huh? And after 3 months, I got the reviews. Huh? I got 3 reviews, which were really bad. Okay. And that created a phobia in me. For the next 5 years, I did not submit another paper to an international journal because of that phobia. Huh? Okay. But somehow I told myself that you must believe in yourself. Okay, then only you can do something. So in 2006, when I was reading some papers from the international journal, I said, I can write like this, or why not I try again? Huh? So after 2006, I started publishing in international journals, and after that, I did not look back. Okay, this is where this quote by Simon Sinek says this. Huh? Working hard for something we don't care about is called stress, and working hard for something we love is called passion. So if you have passion for research, I don't think so writing is an issue. Okay, that's the first thing. Huh? But most people have problem writing. Okay, that's where the stress comes in. No? Okay, the stress comes in. No? Okay, this is a paper that I submitted to a journal called International Journal Industrial Management and Data System. This is an SSCI journal. I started submitting my first paper in 2009. And for 9 years, I got 12 papers rejected from the same journal. I got so upset with the journal that I actually wrote to the chief editor called Bin Shan Lin to invite him to become my co-author, but he didn't reply. Anyway, okay. But I was very frustrated because there are many Malaysian authors who are published in the journal, and my papers get rejected all the time. Huh? And finally, in 2017, after 13 papers, I got 1 paper published. Thank God. Huh? Now I thought I can move away from the journal. Huh? And 2018, one of my PhD students submitted 1 paper, 1 revision. She got accepted. No? Life can be very unfair, right? A full professor trying for 13 years, 13 papers, and a PhD student got published in 1 submission. Okay, so the review, you need to understand the process. The publication is actually a process. Not something you can happen with only language, okay? Like Prof. Yogesh already mentioned. Huh? So the first thing you need to do is you have to write a paper, okay? One of the problems with many researchers is I will write the paper tomorrow, I will write the paper tomorrow, and after 5 years, they are still writing tomorrow. Huh? The tomorrow doesn't come, right? Okay, you have to somehow write a paper. If you have written a paper, then what will happen is you will go through several revisions, and you can start with a higher journal and then go down to a lower level journal. That's how I work. Every paper that you write, somehow you will get the home base. Okay, it can be a higher level journal or a lower level journal. Okay, that's what is happening. And for those who are younger scholars, one of the things I would suggest strongly is you should have a role model and a mentor. Okay, my role model is none other than the guru in the area, Viswanath Venkatesh. I've been citing his papers in all my papers, and I thought, why not? We look at the way he writes. Okay, he writes in some of the top journals like MIS Quarterly, right? Okay, so why not? No? And I met him a couple of times. for workshops, and now we have become good friends. If you see the Google Scholar citation, he has more than 100,000 citations. And I don't think so we will be able, Yogesh and I will be able to catch up with him soon, Yogesh, right? Yes. Okay. So, but what happens is if you have a role model, then you can actually model what you're writing, like Prof. Yogesh mentioned. You can see how they write, how they articulate, right? You can also follow them. So for those who are beginning, you can also look at replication study. Take a paper already published, do it better in a different setting, right? Okay. The second person you can look for is a mentor who can actually work with you and help you in some of the weak points that you have. So that is where some complementary competencies come in. Okay, other than that, you can also build some strategic networks. This is actually very important because we are not good in all areas. We may be weak in some areas. You can look for some complementary competencies. That's where co-author A or co-author B comes in. I've been lucky in that sense because I have many co-authors from different countries. You actually learn from those co-authors, the way they write, the way they argue, the way they think, the way they visualize things are different. But you have to also balance between reputation, your personality, and also availability and motivation. There are some authors who are available all the time, but they have no motivation to write. So they can only be in the paper, but they are not helping you. That's also not a good thing for you to do. So when you get into this co-op, everything is normally distributed almost. That's where the ha comes in. So when you get into a cooperation, somehow each person must come with a competence that complements each other. Once you have written the paper, you have to target the journal. This is one of the most difficult part, like Prof. Yogesh also mentioned. You cannot be targeting your first paper to an A-star journal, right? You will fall hard with the review that you get, like my experience in 2001. So what you should have is, you should have a list of journals. What you can do is target a better journal, but if you get rejected, you can go for low one. Like here, what they say is, for most of us, we are not targeting high, but we target very low. So when you get a paper accepted in a journal, as it is, that's actually a bad decision. The paper may have gone to a better journal. Okay, that's my take on submission. And now we get a lot of rejection. I get rejection every other day from my submission. And now we have a problem of mental health. Many academics have problems when they have pressure to publish and they have a tenure to fulfill. Okay, so that's targeting. And because of this targeting pressure in a country like Malaysia, if you see, this is a shocking paper that was published in Scientometrics about predatory publishing. If you see here, in physical sciences and social sciences, Malaysia is number 2 because of the pressure to publish. People are paying to publish. That's not very good for a research scholar. Try to avoid this kind of paid publication. So what I would suggest is you should have a list of journals like this, okay? Like Prof. Yogesh mentioned, and this list will change from different stages of your career. If the list remains the same from the time you started until you retire, then something is wrong with your list, okay? As you move along in your career, the kind of journal also changes. This is my dream list, okay? I manage some of the journals. And there's one particular journal I've been trying for a long time, called Government Information Quarterly, but so far no luck. Okay, I know Prof. Yogesh was editor for a while. Maybe in the future I will look at it again. I've been trying for a long time, so that's my experience with a list like this. Okay, for submissions, no all-in-one. Try to gain experience with a lower tier journal as you move along in your career. You can also start with a conference, then move on to higher tier journals. You have to balance your time and journal quality because good journals take long time, maybe 3 years to 4 years to get a paper published. And every year you need a KPI, right? So that's where the struggle between quality and quantity comes in, okay? When you submit for the journal, try looking at the guidelines, okay? Follow the guidelines, read the aims and the scope of the journal. That's one thing you need to do. And when you submit, if you see a typical reviewer on the right-hand side, they are actually looking for some of your weaknesses in the paper. If you get a long review from the reviewer, you should be thankful because he's actually reading your paper and giving you comments to improve the paper. But some people get very upset with reviewers, thinking that the reviewer is finding fault. That's actually a good thing. If the paper get rejected, then you move to another journal. If you get a revision, then you're almost there. What you need to do is you need to answer all the comments raised. Okay, so what I normally like to do is, these are the two golden rules of replying to reviewers. Rule number 1 is the reviewer is always right. Rule number 2, if the reviewer is not right, see rule number 1, which is the reviewer is always right. Finally, the reviewer has to endorse your submission, right? Okay, look at them. So what I normally like to do is, when you reply to reviewers, you have this column on the left and the right. But some authors I see is what they say is done. They put the comment on the right, and on the left and on the right they say done. What did you do? I have to go back and look at the paper. That's not a good strategy. Whatever changes you do, you can copy and paste in this column and tell the reviewer that this is what you have done. Okay. So if I'm the reviewer, I will look at these comments and then look at the paper. I don't read the paper again another time because I've spent so much time. So after you have published the paper, many researchers stop at that. We are very happy the paper get published and then we forget about it. But now things are changing. In many countries, they no longer look at the number of publications. They're actually looking at citation. So somehow we have to also do this trumpeting, right? Okay. So for people to read our paper and cite the paper. So here we have a lot of platforms available: Kudos, Publons, ResearchGate, Facebook, personal website. We can also email the paper that is published to other researchers who are working in the same area. Now we also have Altmetric that gives you some impact, they call it, whether it's read by somebody or cited by somebody. Yeah. Okay. The other thing we were discussing before the workshop was this called rigor. Okay. Like here it says, it behooves us to stay on top of current methodological developments. Whatever were acceptable methodological practices even 5 years ago can easily and rapidly become unacceptable. This is what is happening with the research rigor. So you need to keep up with the changes in the rigor. Okay, if you want to submit to a good journal, the rigor must be up to that level of the journal. Okay, and continuous learning is very important. This is what is important. So during my 30-year career, I've been very fortunate because I've met some of the people I'm citing in my literature at workshops. The number 1 on the top left is David Kenny, who wrote the paper Barron and Kenny 1986, which has more than 100,000 citations. He's considered a legend in mediation. In the middle, we have Joseph Hare. Everybody cites him as Hare et al., right? Okay. He's also a good friend now. And on the right, we have Win Chin, who we cite for partial least square. Okay. At the bottom left, we have people who have criticized Barron and Kenny. They are called Pritchard and Hayes. Okay. So if you are doing mediation analysis, that's a citation you cite Pritchard and Hayes 2004 and 2008, right? Okay. And the last 2 people here are Christian Ringler and Marco Sastet. These are the big names in partial least square. I've started working with them since 2011, and we have published some collaborative papers. They are very supportive, and because of the association with them, in 2018, I also wrote a book on partial least square, which is very useful for many research scholars who are embarking on structural equation modeling using PLS or smart PLS. Okay, yeah. Okay, that's about it. Prof. Varsha, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Ramaya. This is quite encouraging and inspiring journey, because you spoke about all the successes, challenges, and as a researcher, it's very nice to see your journey, how you have evolved as a scholar. I think you enjoyed every moment of that evolution, which you have just narrated. So there's so much to learn from that entire journey, which you just explained to all of us. So thank you so much for that. So I think there is a question here. So despite having your research work rejected, what served as motivation to you to keep going and submitting the papers? Shaurya has asked this question. Professor Ramaya, there is a question which says that after getting so many rejections, what were the motivations and motives? I think Yogesh can also answer this.
Okay, as researchers,
submitting the
you get
papers.
rejected all the time, Varsha. Okay, but the motivation to publish in that particular journal, let's say European Journal of Marketing or European Journal of Information System, that should drive you, right? Maybe Yogesh can speak about it. Ultimately, anybody in IS will be targeting MIS quarterly, but not many people achieve that, right? Okay, but that will be the ultimate aim, whether we achieve it or not. But we can slowly step up, right? So we begin with the lower level and then we start moving up. Somehow we will get rejected, right? Okay, I actually submitted once to MIS quarterly, got that's rejected, Yogesh. So that's my okay. Yogesh, you can speak.
Yeah, I think I would like to answer Shaurya in different way. Shaurya, those who are passionate researcher, they don't do research necessarily to publish. They do research because they crave to do research, because they really start missing if they're not doing research. You know, I work after 16 years of my job, achieving professorial status in 7 years and everything. I'm still working 17 to 18 hours per day. And I don't get tired, yeah? Because what I'm doing, I am absolutely enjoying. And I can bet, be it Varsha or Ramaya or Aviral, or whoever else is there who doing really research with passion, I don't think you realized how long you have spent every day when you're doing it, you know, with hunger, with eager, with keenness, that you want to learn more, you want to do better than what you have done before. And that is the most important aspect. Persistence, I mentioned persistence. You get rejected, so what? I mean, one journal rejected you, but then there are hundreds of other journals. And as Professor Ramaya said, you know, got rejected from A-star. I mean, obviously you shouldn't, unless the work is to that label, you shouldn't submit to A-star anyway. But if you thought that it is to that label and you submitted to A-star, then you try few other A-star, then you can go to A. I mean, you got plenty of choices. So, I mean, in my own experience, I have got some paper, my first GIQ paper, Professor Ramaya said he has not yet published one GIQ. And my first one, I remember I published in 2011, and that is one of my most cited paper, actually, to be honest. And that paper was rejected by 10 previous journals, 10 different journals. And then it got published in GIQ, which was better than many of those previous journals. So it's not about, you know, sometimes quality is an issue. Sometimes it's just your luck. You know, this one thing that plays huge role in research is luck. Many of you may not believe in luck, but if you start publishing, you will start believing in luck. That combination of editor, combination of reviewer, you know, type of journal, all that determines if your papers succeed or not. Sometimes 2 reviewers are very happy, but 3rd reviewer are is so adamant that I don't want to, you know, let this paper go. And then if reviewer have agreed, then A doesn't actually allow. I mean, I know one paper, probably many of you know Public Administration Review, which is a very strong 4-star journal. And B submitted a paper, he gone through 4 rounds of reviews. And after 4 rounds of reviews, editor wanted clean copy to give a final decision. We submitted a clean copy, and then what we received after 2 days is rejection. Rejection based on that it's not about quality, it's about fit. So they realized after 3 years that the paper doesn't have fit when reviewer, AE, and everyone else accepted the paper. Yeah. So it's about the persistence would be there. I mean, one thing, many of researchers, after getting such rejection, they get very demotivated. As Professor Ramaiah said, after his first paper, he didn't even dare to, try again for many years. That's not me. My approach is, so what? And I'm also not one that going to argue with editor or associate editor. It's fine, you rejected it. It was in your capacity. But in my capacity, what it is, that I will look at my paper again, see what I can do, and I submit somewhere else. I'm not going to argue with the editor. I won't waste my time doing that, because I know as editor, you won't be able to achieve much arguing editor. Simple. So why to write a paper? When you receive a rejection, one thing I would say, when you receive a rejection, leave it for a day or two, then come back to that. You will cool down by then, and then take a next step. So there is no magic, Soria. There is no mantra that I can tell that even after rejection, how you keep going. But if you have passion to publish, you have passion for research, you will keep going. You will not have to think why you need to keep going, because that's what you want to do every day, every hour, to see more research and to see more paper. I'm sorry, I think again I have taken loss and I have to go because...
Okay, Arti and Varsha, I have to leave now because I have another...
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Ramaiah.
Thank
Thank you so much, Yogesh.
I would like to formally say thank you both, Professor Yogesh Trivedi and Ramaiah sir. I'm actually not even me. I'm sure my colleagues must also be thrilled to see all of you over here. And when you shared back to memory lane journey, and it is something like, very much definitely motivating journey. And definitely we learned that we should not stop practicing. We should be more focused, and the importance of reading and writing. Thank you so much for highlighting these points. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Prof. Avira, see you.
Thank you, Professor Ramaiah. Thank you so much.
Okay, so now with a thought, I think I would just like to add that every movement has to be celebrated. There is a special issue with Journal of Marketing Management, initiated, that celebrating failures. I think the problem also is, and I've seen when I went to the US in the Boston University, where the professors are not displaying only their publications, but they display their rejection letters. Because after getting 400 kind of rejection, I might have published 50 papers. So I think this is something which is to be imbibed in our own human system, where we accept our rejections and move ahead. And that's why I keep saying that it's a co-creation system, because every moment is a learning experience. You learn from everything around you. You learn from digital channels, technology, everything. And we built upon that. We never stop. That's what Yogesh and Professor Ramaiah was talking about, that passion drives you. And one more point before I go get to Professor Tiwari is that, you also have this habit of giving back to the discipline, giving back to the society. I think this is something which you would have to develop at an initial stage. Even as a student, you give back to all the stakeholders. It's not that you become a legend, then only you will give back. You give back in different ways, by reviewing papers, by helping your colleagues and peers, by reviewing them critically, telling them, informing them, this is how you can nurture your scholarship or improve your paper. So I think this is something which is also very important, along with the points which Yogesh and Professor Ramaiah has mentioned. So I would request Professor Tiwari, if you could share your views and journey. I'm sure with your views and journey also, we will learn more about the bilingual aspects and challenges, and also the scholarly journey. And then I will provide my concluding remarks.
Thank you, Varsha Madam. Just like I will not say that I am a successful researcher or even known researcher, just like any other researcher who is doing extensive work, and they see a lot of failures in research area, or person who has succeeded in different disciplines including business, right? They have seen a lot of failures. So that is something with which we cannot get away. It will be there. When success is there, failure will be there. There are only in millions, there will be only one who will not have failure. But as Yogesh Dwivedi said, that then you are not targeting a right journal in terms of publication, or in terms of business, you are not targeting a business in which you can do wonders. I will tell my journey. I am also basically from a village in Unnao district, and I studied till 5th in a Sarkari school, government school, where we had no English till 5th. From 5th class, we start ABDC, not ABDC, but ABCD. Sorry. Right. So 6th onwards, we had sentences, and it was very tough for all the students who used to study. Till graduation, things was like that in Hindi medium only. The moment I got admission in masters, it was all in English. Books were in English, teachers were teaching in English, and then it was like I don't know what is going on in the class. I was not able to get anything in the class. But I will tell you one thing I had followed during my study in bachelor's or in 10+2. When I used to study Hindi books, some of the keywords in Hindi, they will have English word as well. So I used to see that English word as well. So in the class, when that English word is spoken by the teacher, I could get, okay, something they are talking about this word. So that is how I started little bit understanding what they are talking about. We bought a book, we started reading in the book, what is there in the books, and it was like hell. Then writing notes in Hindi, of course, because we used to give exam in Hindi. First year, I gave exam in Hindi, very poor marks. I could not even write all the answers. Next year, I thought, in my university, in Lucknow University, normally it is said that time, I don't know what is now. If you are writing exam in English, even the same answer, you will get better marks. I said, okay, let me try now in English. So there was some set of questions which I thought I can by heart. I did it. And some questions I thought if they will come, I will write in whatever language I can. Question paper came, I started writing in English. That was the first time when I was writing an answer in English. And my hand was shaking like this. I was not able to write a single line in a proper way. Somehow I completed, I think, 2 or 3 questions. Then I thought, okay, more than 1.5 hours is gone. I will not be able to complete the question paper. So let me come back to Hindi. So I wrote again some answers in Hindi and then some lines, because I had by heart some questions or some terminology that I was able to recall in English. So some line in English, some lines in Hindi. So it was all khichdi. With all khichdi, I got good marks. So that, I don't know if anyone has done, I have never experienced if someone has done exams like this, but this was my first experience with Hindi and English, and you can say khichdi. Okay, PG is completed, and some of my story I had already shared with one of my another interview taken by Inktalk Hub. So where I talked about after completing my masters, I used to subscribe EPW, if you know Economics and Political Bulletin. So I used to read, and they in that they have some special papers. Okay, so those papers are actually research papers. Others are just like that. So those papers I used to read, and I used to get motivated. Okay, someday I will be also able to write papers like this. I don't know. So I was thinking, and again the background was coming on the way. So I was not able to get my thoughts in English in a proper way. I used to write first in Hindi in paper, and then okay, let me translate it into English, but it was never coming to that kind of level. I talked to many other people how to overcome with this problem, and they said we start speaking English and all. So I did, which most of the students they follow. They join some speaking course. I never did. Okay, luckily. So I just did it by my own. I rehearsed it and practiced it and things like that. Then one of my this college friend, she suggested that in ICFI they have a MPhil cum PhD program. And if you can join that program, you can get a PhD along with some fellowship. That time I had started teaching also in a college. So I thought, okay, because anyway, I turned to be academician, so let me do a PhD because this is also a necessity. So I entered into the program and I got into the program with a lot of struggle. As I said, that time in 2009, okay, I made my first email ID. Not I made, in fact, my friend made because I was not knowing how to use a computer. In 2009, I am telling, okay. In 2010, my friend who is in IIM Bodh Gaya, Ravis, he bought a laptop and then we both started sharing that laptop and I started using it. That was 2010, right? So 2010 onwards, you can see I became a little bit digital. Otherwise, I was completely with books and all, always go to library, read, make notes in the paper and things like that. So my research, or you can say whatever, it started from 2010. In 2009-10, I completed my MPhil also. And then because of some UGC issues, I was forced to move to Tripura. Earlier we were in Hyderabad. So during our training in the MPhil program, I was taught how to actually read a research paper. That was the one best thing I got from this course. Earlier, because normally how we read, we will just go on reading and not understand. So they taught us what are the things we have to focus on the paper. We need to see how, what, where those some sentences or whatever methodology or data, those sections are mentioned. And they used to have they used to ask us that you present a paper and others paper, of course, and they will ask any question from anywhere in that paper. And we will be answering that as a author, assuming that we are author and we will be answering. So it was a very big challenge for us that we used to take a good paper and sometimes it was very difficult to convince uh, the panel members and answer their tough questions. But it was a good learning, and there I learned how to really read a research paper. And also I understood what are the area which I have to focus when I write a paper, because those are the crux areas or key areas which everyone will like to see, right? In 2010, when I moved in April, I think April or May to Tripura, we started working. I joined in the PhD program, then registered and started doing research. So there we had no facility. No facility means no software, no database, not even internet connection proper. We used to get it now, but that time it was not there. And not even faculty members who can really train me on my area. So you can see I was in a jungle. Okay. And then I have to complete a PhD. And I was self-motivated that I will do a best PhD. Because in MPhil, I forgot to tell you, this expert came from CDS and he said, your MPhil is equivalent to PhD because you are registered in this program. Otherwise, I could have given a PhD degree to you. So that was the comment. And with that, I got motivated that, okay, my PhD will be much better than what we did in one MPhil program. So in the jungle, I started learning the things and trying to write a research paper. I wrote something. My focus was, and I will say you all must focus, the research scholars basically, or upcoming faculty members also who are coming to the research field. See, there are some, you can say, when you join a faculty or when you are research scholar, you have much more time. But as you move forward, you become experienced, you get involved yourself into so many activities, and then you are left with very less time, right? So when you are a PhD scholar, you have to focus on learning and learning and only learning, nothing else. That was my only aim. I was completely trying to save my each and every minute for what? To learn. I was not involved in any activity, and of course, interview also I had said my VC was very much supportive there. He had given complete freedom that whatever you think is good for your research, you do, and I am there to support you. I was not participating in anything and just completely day and night working there with my laptop and trying to learn software, trying to learn writing, developing writing skills. Then I wrote one paper, which I submitted to Economics Bulletin. I was not aware there's something called Scopus that time. I was not aware there's something called ABDCs that time. I just saw this is an open access journal. So I thought, okay, let me submit, because at least I had this idea that if we submit this paper here and somehow we are lucky to get our paper published here, many people will be able to read and I will get citation. So that was the intention. I submitted and I got a revision. And revision was such a huge revision that I think it was 2011. And in 2010, another researcher who had published a paper in Journal of Applied Statistics, he had developed some econometric model, and they were asked me to apply that model. And you see, in an environment where I had no faculty who can help me, I had no software which I can use, and I am supposed to use a model which is just published a few months back. I thought, okay, let me try. I thought, okay, so I asked one of my friend, at least River said that if you request the code from this author who has developed this paper, he will be able to share. So I requested the code and I got the code. But when I see the code, it is all like, I don't know, because someone who knows coding, he knows how code looks like, and someone who just uses some menu-driven softwares, they have nothing to face, right? So it was all completely going above my head, and I had no idea what to do with these codes, how to use them. So,
Professor Tiwari, I'm extremely sorry, but can you please conclude so that we can have the concluding remarks and we end on time?
Till 4, no, madam?
I will also need some time for
Okay,
the
madam.
conclusion.
So then I requested many people who can help me, but I got no help. And then after 6 months, I got reminder from the editor that, okay, you submit the revision. I said, give me more time. I was trying learning. I could not do. After 1.5 years, I was able to do. After 1.5 years effort. Many people said they will help, but they want to be co-author. I said, no, this is my solo paper and I don't want you to be author. So this is the persistence that Yogesh talked about. You need to be persistent for the things that you are targeting. Another thing I will tell, when I started targeting A-star, I got 23 rejections in A-star journals. Okay. And now I have 23 A-stars in same journal where I got my first paper rejected. That is what is called persistence. So most of the things I think have been talked by Yogesh Dwivedi and Professor Ramaiah, and I should close. I only wanted to focus on the persistence, the language problem that I faced, and how you can overcome. You need to be self-motivated. No monetary and other motivation are going to work. Facilities are just like, if you have them, it's okay. If you don't have, Don't get demotivated that you are not having, because we have this kind of feeling, okay, I don't have this. If I would have had, I could have done something, right? Without having anything also, you can do wonders. Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey. I think it's quite inspiring to see how you have evolved with very lack of resources around you, and then you evolved actually as a global scholar. So really, thank you so much for sharing that. In the concluding remarks, I just wanted to mention, and I just got some time, honestly, like 6 minutes from now. So what I just wanted to mention is that besides whatever journey you have seen in terms of the bilingual challenges and all of that, let me share my own experience and the journey. First thing, for the bilingual context and the challenges which are there, honestly speaking, there is a recent research which was done in the US. It says that the bilingual or the multilingual kind of a mindset is not a challenge. First thing, why it is not a challenge, and let me explain. Because if you're using multiple type of languages, your brain and the neural cords are being trained that way. Which means, which way? Which means that you are getting used to the experiments, you are open for explorations, and you are open for the newness around you. And that is the reason why countries like India, where they have multiple languages, have got that adaptability, which we say jugaad. This is exactly a classic example which you see here. Now what happens is, and the other thing is also being correlated with the usage of gadgets, which means that you are able to use your iPad phone and the television always goes at the back end. So this is something which I just wanted to say. So use that as a strength, build upon that and take that forward. One aspect. Second aspect which I wanted to highlight here is that though I was trained into a convent school, I did all my schooling throughout in English. And when I compare the journey, what Viral was mentioning, I think it was like bipolar. In my case, I was pretty much clear what I want to do in my life and what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. So I have a very creative bend of mine. I can't do codings. I was very clear about it. I tried that even. I could not do it because that's not what I am all about. And then I realized that I want to do something which is very creative, but it's very structured, where I can express myself. Language for us is nothing but expression. Expression of tones, expression of knowledge, developing knowledge, co-creating that knowledge with all the stakeholders. How do you express? For me, even silence is a part of expression, is a part of language. This is what we study. This is what we research, even in advertising and branding. Recently, we completed one research where we found that stereotyping in advertising has gone to the next level, where people are reflecting stereotyping through silence. That if somebody is talking, you don't say anything and you don't even look at that person. That itself symbolizes that I don't care. So this is something which has a very deeper meaning for us in terms of expression, in terms of putting up the emotive. This is what I said, when you use emotives, I think next conference, Aarti, probably you might have to think about the emotive as an expression and the language which you're using even in the research papers, and how to do research around it, because our language are changing, coding is changing. Maybe 2 languages, maybe third language will emerge from the technology, which is where we are evolving and getting associated with. So that was the second aspect which I wanted to tell you. Third and the last thing which I just wanted to share with you is that what are the key takeaways from this particular panel which you have just attended? So always I've been trained by my mentors, thanks to them, that Varsha, can you put it up in a simple model or a framework where people can just carry it and just use it? So this is what I normally do. So what is the key takeaway is, for me, if I have to put the concluding remarks, is some frameworks which I'll give you, which you can use it. Framework number 1 is LCD model, which means that learn, co-create, disseminate, and it's a circular model. Keep learning every day. I think this is what Professor Tiwari has mentioned. This is what Professor Ramaya has mentioned, Professor Yogesh has mentioned. But there is always some strength which you have to build upon. And whatever is something which you feel is a weak area, partner with another person. Suppose, for example, the prediction is marketing area is going to converge into IT very soon, because there won't be any IT and marketing, so to say. It has to be converged. So finally, if you need that kind of a skill set, then, align with that technology oriented person, which I always say that co-create that new knowledge with that particular person. And there are 3 R's which are to be, R&R is part of our life. And I think the passion, and this is what we've discussed in the panel, is all about every moment as a celebration. We do that research, 17, 18 years of work over the weekends and everything, as Yogesh was mentioning, which is quite true. Nobody is asking us to work on it, but we do it because we are curious, because we are passionate, and we want to help the academic global community. We want to give back to the discipline. We want to give back to the academy. This has to be inbuilt in the system. The moment it happens, nobody will be there to tell you that start publishing. And I agree completely, when we publish, the ultimate objective is not publishing. Ultimate objective is to create new knowledge so that I can help the stakeholders. The moment the objective changes, believe me, publication will be part of your journey. This is how we all work. So 3 R's, and I just want to conclude that, is always review, reflect, and reinvent. This is something which even the pandemics has taught us. Even in my classes, we discuss about it with my FPM students. When I guide, I tell them the same thing: review what you were, reflect on what you have done, learn from your mistakes, and then reinvent. That's how you're going to grow. So 10 years down the line, what I have published, if I go back to my own work, if I'm able to make out what corrections and additions I have done, that means I have grown over a decade. Otherwise, I have not. So with that thought, I think we are just on time, which is 4. And I thought I'll just share that with you, because these are certain things which you will carry from the panel, build it up further, and maybe become wonderful scholars in the coming time. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Tiwari and Aarti. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to thank to our esteemed speakers for giving us thought-provoking and deep insights into the topic. I'm sure everyone in attendance has gained a lot of knowledge. I would also like to thank our session moderators for ensuring such a smooth session. I request Dr. Aarti Saini, the organizing secretary of the conference, to present the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Karan. Before we move for formal vote of thanks, I think we should take a virtual photograph.
So, ma'am. I request all the participants to kindly turn on their camera for the virtual photograph. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, ma'am.
So good evening, everyone. I'm sure with me, all of you must be thrilled to listen to the journey of our distinguished panelists over here. I'm really thankful to them for taking out time for this session and definitely making it a learning experience for everyone over here. Today, with this session, we come to the end of the day. And with this, I would like to thank our principal, Dr. Anil Sardana, Seminar Director, Dr. Anil Kumar, my session coordinator, Sonika Sharma ma'am, Shikha Gupta, Dr. Shikha Gupta, and also the student coordinators who have really worked well to conduct this session smoothly. Professor Varsha, your insights were really helpful. The concluding remarks were truly motivating. Avril Tiwari sir, the things which you shared is very, definitely everyone can relate how you're relating to everything. And my heartfelt thanks to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so
ma'am.
much, everybody. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you all.
Thank you
Okay.
so much, ma'am. With this, we come to the end of today's discussion forum. I would like to thank each and every one of you for being so cooperative and patient. I request you all to join us for the upcoming sessions on day 2 and day 3 of the International E-Conference. Thank you once again.